All right, hey, this is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group with your theme of the day before the Fed announcement today, a little bit after 2 o'clock today. And one of the things that I think is in focus or could be in focus is the US dollar. So, US dollar has been very strong on the back of positive economics the last couple months. Today we got a little bit weaker economics, so you could see the dollar pulling back a little bit. But just watching how paper is positioning, interesting. Now we see some FXY calls just hitting the tape. March 86 versus 90 calls. So this is kind of what I'm getting at here. If the dollar decides to go down, and we did see a dollar bearish trade that went up yesterday. This was yesterday's flow. There was 30,000 of the March UUP puts that traded. That's the dollar bear. So essentially a bet that the US dollar will go down. So then it becomes, if that happens, and we don't know what's going to happen after the Fed announcement in terms of the language that they're going to present and what they're going to talk about in terms of future rate increases. If they are slightly dovish, I would think that the dollar is going to sell off a bit. What does that affect? Well, it affects your metals and mining group. It affects your steel names. And what have we been seeing the last couple days in terms of flow in the steel names and some of the metals and mining sensitive areas, as well as currency sensitive areas? So yesterday, let's just start backwards and talk about yesterday's flow. We saw some more March AKS steel name, March 18 strike calls. We also saw Newmont calls that went up yesterday. Sorry, that's NEM. That's a gold miner. But we also saw some. Where is this? U.S. Steel's in here as well. Where? How come I can't find it? There it is. April 38 calls that went up in U.S. Steel. Again, very dollar sensitive things. And then today, so far, what we've seen, we saw a very interesting order in EWA. This is typically we don't really see a lot of volume in Australia. The Australia ETF is made up mostly of banks as well as mining companies. So again, this ETF, as many foreign or international ETFs have exposure to the US dollar. So essentially, if the dollar goes down, this position will do well, both with the currency impact as well as it's because it's got mining names that are also exposed to the U.S. dollar. We're also saw a little bit of SLV calls. You know, some of these are weekly trades and they're kind of a little bit of lottery tickets. They're not spending a lot of money. I think these went up for about 9 cents. And then just further to the theme, we're seeing more buying in steel names. These were weeklies that went up in Nucor. And then a big block of CLF. Cliffs. So another name that I would think has some sensitivity to the U.S. dollar. If the U.S. dollar goes down, I would imagine these metals and mining names are going to rip. So again, that has to take place. That's kind of reading into what could happen today, but it seems like that's the way the tape is positioning themselves. A lot of orders going up in a similar type of theme. Somebody thinking possibly that the dollar goes down here. And again, the dollar has a lot of implications with that move if that move happens. So I like this. I actually did take some of I established a position in EWA calls. I'm also looking at the XME ETF, going long that and starting a position before the announcement. I did not take any of the position in Cliffs, but I think that's an interesting trade. And then finally, we just saw an order in DXJ, which I think is really interesting as well. The DXJ is a Japan ETF that doesn't have any exposure to the yen, but it will essentially fall. They hedge out the yen exposure. So if the yen gets a bid, and you know in turn the US dollar sells off, the yen gets a bid, DXJ puts should work on that. So very similar themes going on the day of the Fed, a couple hours before the Fed announcement. And that's what I think is the major theme of what we're seeing going into that meeting. So stay tuned. Should be an interesting day. And thank you for watching the video.